Good afternoon, good morning, depending where you are attending this webinar from. Today, we are having ARSO monthly webinar. ARSO as an intergovernmental organization in charge of harmonizing standards and conformity assessment in Africa. We are having the discussion under the trade information and the trade promotion with the topic on the role of trade web portals as sources of trade information, uh, products, technical requirements, regulation, and standards, tariffs for enhanced market access. Today we will be having again expert in this area who will share with us different initiatives that we have on the continent and those also we have at the European Union level. When you look at the WTO TBT agreement, specifically on transparency clause under Article 10, information about technical regulations, standards, and conformity assessment procedures requires that each member shall ensure that an inquiry point exists, which is able to answer all reasonable inquiries from other members and interested parties in order to provide the relevant documents regarding any technical regulation adopted or proposed within its territory, any standard adopted or proposed within its territory, and any conformity assessment procedure or proposed conformity assessment procedures which are operated within its territory. And when you also look at Article 15 of the WTO TBT agreement on transparency, there are three elements that are cornerstone of the TBT. One is notification on technical regulation, standards, and conformity assessment procedures, and other measures that may affect trade. Second is national inquiry points, responding to inquiries from other members on TBT's issues. Third is publication requirements, advertising the intent to regulate. Then when you also look at the AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, on clause on transparency and notification, specifically under Article 4. It has objectives that state parties agree to establish mechanisms and structures to enhance transparency in the development and implementation of standards, technical regulations, metrology, accreditation, and conformity assessment procedures. And on Article 11 on transparency, state parties reaffirm that transparency is essential in ensuring clarity, predictability, and trust within the AFCFTA framework and shall comply with transparency obligations of the WTO TBT agreement, including notification procedures and notification system developed from time to time. You would understand that the AFCFTA agreement is linking to also the WTO TBT agreement. Today, we also know that under the WTO agreement, it's stated that no country should be prevented from taking measures necessary to ensure the quality of its export or for the protection of human, animal, and plant life or health of the environment, or for the prevention of deceptive practices at the levels it's considered appropriate. It means that when you look at 55 countries in Africa, you have the right to put on the measures, but you need to inform the other countries in your territory on those information related to TBT, technical regulation, standard, conformity assessment procedures. But we also need information on trade. Today is the reason that we will be having the discussion for this information and the trade portals that exist on our continent with objective to facilitate better understanding of the need of effective information channels on the non-tariff measures, to facilitate better understanding from also different initiatives. We have ARSO Documentation and Information Network. We have the African Observatory, and we have also the European side on access to markets. And we also have initiative from Economical Commission for Africa, ECA, that we will be sharing with us some thought. I welcome you once again. I am Dr. Imogen Sengimana, the Secretary General of African Organization for Standardization. And I would like to introduce our first speaker today, who is with us, Laura Naliaka. She's a trade policy fellow at the Africa Trade Policy Centers at the Economic Commission for Africa. She has been with us in other actual presentation on our webinar. She previously worked at the African Economic Research Consortium, where she oversaw a project on mitigating the adverse effect of COVID-19 in East Africa. She's currently under the ATPC, as I said. Laura Nariaka, you have the floor. You can unmute.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me first share my screen. And thank you so much, SG, for the introduction. And thanks to ARSO for having ECA once again in your important monthly webinar series. We're really delighted to take part in these important conversations. I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, you can put on full screen mode, please.
Is it better?
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
And good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening to everyone, depending on where you are from. The focus of my presentation is on trade information and requirements in the context of promoting intra-African trade. But to appreciate and understand the role of trade information and requirements, we first need to unpack non-tariff measures. We first need to unpack non-tariff measures, and we'll start by defining non-tariff measures. And here we will adapt the definition used by UNCTAD, which refer to non-tariff measures, also commonly known as NTMs, as policy measures other than custom tariffs that can potentially have an economic effect on international trade in goods. And this is through affecting the quantities of goods traded, or their prices, or both the quantity and the prices. And these NTMs are further divided into the technical measures and the non-technical measures. Under the technical measures, we have the sanitary and phytosanitary measures, commonly known as SPS. And these are basic rules on the food safety and animal and plant health standards. We have technical barriers to trade, and this refers to measures such as labeling, standards on technical specifications, and quality requirements, among others. And there's also pre-shipment inspection and other custom formalities. Moving to non-technical measures, we have rules of origin, which are essentially We can refer to them as passports for determining the nationality of products. We have price control measures. These are often put in place to control the prices of imported goods. We have finance measures, which tend to be put in place to restrict the payment of imports, especially when there are regulations related to access and the cost of forex. And there's also distribution restrictions, which, as the name suggests, relates to the internal distribution of imported products. I've not listed all of them. These are just to highlight some of the non-technical measures under NTMs. I'm just trying to move to the next slide there. So I will start with the positive side of non-tariff measures, or NTMs. NTMs are primarily meant to protect the public health or the environment. But at the same time, the unintended consequence of non-tariff measures is that they can be designed and implemented in such a manner that they become non-tariff barriers to trade. And in this case, the information, compliance, and procedural costs associated with the NTMs adversely affect trade. I will use two examples. I will use two examples to illustrate how non-tariff measures can become barriers or roadblocks to trade within the continent. The first example comes from a complaint from Kenya, which was made in 2021. The complaint raised by Kenya was that Uganda required the pre-export verification of conformity certificate for seed shipments into the country. And this was causing considerable delays in seed shipment from Kenya. So the issue was looked into, and Uganda was absolved of any wrongdoing. And this is because they were just following a legal requirement where all commodities under mandatory standards are required to go through the PVOC inspection. The other example is from 2017, whereby there was a complaint from Zambia that Botswana border officials were demanding fumigation certificate for molasses. This was also looked into, and Botswana clarified during one of the SADC trade facilitation meetings that sanitary import permits were only required for molasses mill. So this meant that the Botswana border officials were not supposed to ask for the fumigation certificate for molasses from the Zambian traders. What we can take away from these two examples is that misinformation on the non-tariff measures can become non-tariff barriers to trade within the continent. And here even we're looking specifically at the REX, and it shows us that at times eliminating the tariffs, or rather minimizing the tariffs, is not enough. We need to go a step further to address the non-tariff measures, because if we look at example one, the case of Kenya and Uganda, they're both in the EAC. Zambia and Botswana, they're both in SADC. Then this means, yes, the tariff issues have been addressed, but now there's another curveball coming in the form of non-tariff measures, which are prone to becoming non-tariff barriers. And these examples also underscore the importance of effectively disseminating information and trade information and requirements requirements to trade among not just the traders, but also government officials, to avoid the issue of misunderstanding. And at the same time, it shows us the importance of having transparent outlets, or rather portals, to address some of the issues relating to non-tariff measures. These two examples are derived from the COMESA ESC SADC NTB reporting platform, whereby the traders are logged into the portal, recorded their complaints, and the complaints were immediately looked into. So this means when you have a platform where where the various people involved in the issues can report, then it means there's also a platform. There's also it means there's also leeway for the challenges to be addressed. Because if we look at the case of Zambia and Botswana, perhaps the Botswana government was not aware of what was happening at the border till this case was recorded by the traders from Zambia. The impact on NTMs has also been underscored by various empirical studies. For instance, we have a 2015 study by Jensen and Sandri, which showed that in addition to eliminating tariffs for intra-African trade, reducing non-tariff barriers, this includes through addressing issues related to non-tariff measures, has a much larger impact on promotion, or rather increasing intra-African trade. And similar results were found in a study by Vanzetti et al. This is a 2019 study, which focused on the ACP countries. Of course, this covers some African countries. And the findings from this study showed that trade can improve when we remove the remaining tariffs between the various countries. But the gains are even more tremendous when we address the non-tariff measures that constrain trade within the region. So the main recommendation from this study was the fact that there is need to focus more on reducing non-tariff barriers and harmonizing regulatory measures, as their impact tend to outweigh the impact of tariffs. As I conclude, I'll focus on what UNECA has been doing to promote access to trade information and market access. So firstly, ECA has a portal with information on AFCFTA priorities in the national implementation strategies for select countries. Why is this important? We know with the AFCFTA provides a larger playing field for the various traders within the continent. It means that if I am a trader based in Kenya or in East Africa, I can now access a market in maybe North Africa or West Africa, which initially I was not able to access easily. But I need to be aware of the priorities, or rather the opportunities in these new markets. And one of the ways to be aware of such opportunities is at looking at what are the priorities for the countries. Which products do they want to focus on? Which value chains do they want to expand, or rather to leverage on? So this is the main. So this portal provides such information, and we also have a portal which has country profiles on digital trade regulatory integration. We know at the moment digital trade is becoming common in most of our countries, and this increased especially during the COVID period, and the trend is likely to continue going into the future. And as the various traders are trading on the digital trade portals, they need to be aware of the information which governs digital trade. And through this portal, they can access some of the information regarding digital trade in some of the countries that we have profiled. And lastly, although this is not really a portal, or rather a web platform, what we do is we equip trainers with information on with trade information, and also information which will be necessary for or instrumental in promoting market access. And this is particularly important because, as we are aware, not all the traders, especially the SMEs, have access to most of these web platforms, or rather digital platforms. So through the trainer of trainers, our main intention is to be able to train a group of the populace who can then transmit the information to the wider population. And as I conclude, what I'd like to underscore is that information is key, especially when it comes to implementation of trade agreements. And now, if I focus on the AFCFTA, we are aware of the fact that there is going to be tariff reduction, but the traders need to be aware of what are the products that are captured in the tariff lines where there is full liberalization, so that ultimately we don't run into problems of, I am a trader from a particular country, I am trying to trade in a particular commodity with certain AFCFTA member states, but I am not aware that maybe the product I want to trade is not part of those that have where the tariffs have been liberalized. And at the same time, as much as we even have portals, for instance, the when it comes to the AFCFTA, there's also a portal where the traders can report some of the non-tariff barriers, including those under non-tariff measures that they face in the course of trading within the continent. But you can't report what you don't know. So it means that we need to start by sharing as much information as we can regarding the AFCFTA, regarding what is covered in the protocols, the information that will be necessary to the traders, what is covered in the annexes. Because we have Annex 6 on technical barriers to trade, we have Annex 7 on SPS, and we also have other annexes which cover certain elements which will be pertinent to traders, but they need to be aware of what is covered so that when they face an issue, they will know, okay, this is not supposed to be happening. I can raise an alarm so that the issue can be addressed. So I'll stop here for now, and I yield the floor back to you, SG.
Thank you very much, Laura, for the good presentation. And actually, it's very interesting on the examples you have given, especially Zambia and Botswana. Yeah, probably many of the private sector or industry dealing with molasses, yeah, have been stopped for that reason of not having fumigation certificate. Thus, I would like to ask you, what are the key challenges that you see in availing information to the private sector, especially like those cases? How can we do better that we avail the correct information to the private sector? But by the way, we might even include even the government officials that are on the border and they are stopping a product while the country does not require such a certificate. What should we do?
Thank you for the question, SG. When it comes to access to information, I think the main challenge we are currently facing, especially in the continent, relates to leaving out certain demographics when we are sharing this information, particularly now in our case, trade information. And I will give some examples. The first one relates to literacy. As we know, the literacy levels in our various countries vary. But when it comes to sharing this information, we tend to focus on the segment which is able to understand the information better. So it means that I might be an SME or an MSME trader, but I don't, maybe I've been given a brochure on maybe, let's say, the rules of origin or the SPS requirements that the product I'm trading in is supposed to meet. But I am not able to understand what is captured in the material that I have been given. So that means that for the organizations and even the governments, it behooves us to share information in simplified manner, and also to cater for such segments of our population. The second one, still, when it comes to the demography, we can look at language barriers. What happens in most cases is information is transmitted in the commonly spoken languages, or the languages which are recognized by specific institutions. It can be maybe the AU recognized languages, or the languages which are recognized in a particular reg. And that means that for the traders, or even the border officials who are not able to understand that particular language, they are left out. You will be given the material, you'll have access to the material, but you will not be able to all still understand what is captured. Then that means you still go back to the challenge of, I do not know what are the requirements for me to trade between the various countries. And we also have still, under accessibility to information, we can also look at the aspect of location, where we find that most people in the cities or urban areas tend to have access, fast access to information compared to those in the rural areas. So this means that if I'm in the rural area and I am a trader, what I know is that maybe I just want to sell my commodities. I'm a trader based in, let's say, Ghana. I want to sell my commodities in Egypt. That's the only thing I'm aware of. But I'm not privy to the level, to the information on on the requirements my products are supposed to meet for them to qualify to be traded in the other market, just because of where I live. And this is why, as I mentioned in my presentation at ECA, what you're really trying to do is also equipping the trainer of trainers in various countries and also in various business associations, so that they cater to such segments of the populations that you might not be able to reach. We will come with the information that we have regarding SPS and TBT and rules of origin, and share it with the trainer of trainers. And now it's up to them to now take the information to the rest of the people so that they can all benefit from the opportunities availed under the agreement, in this case, the AFCFTA. Because ultimately, we don't want to leave certain segments of the population. We are all supposed to benefit from the opportunities availed under the AFCFTA. I'll stop here for now and over to you.
Thank you very much. Interesting that the language barrier, the accessibility to information. I hope that as Swahili has been adopted as the African language, we can across Africa use the Swahili even on this platform and see how we can manage the information on trade. Accessibility, probably we should also change in a way to use access to information, social medias. How do we get the internet in rural areas? Yeah, to avoid such cases as the example you have given of a trader from one country to another, from rural area to the cities. Thank you, Laura. Thank you for your insights on this. Our next presenter will be presenting on the challenge of the trade information and market requirements in Africa and the need to strengthen ARSO member states information system under the ARSO Documentation and Information System Network, the case of the South African Bureau of Standard National Inquiry Point. It will be presented by Dineo Hedzena, who have experience in standardization and a good background in international relations. Actually, she's also the person in charge of Inquiry Point in South Africa. Dineo, you have the floor.
Thank you, SG.
Dan, can you unmute both Dineo devices, please?
Okay, SG, I need you to stop sharing your screen.
Yes, you can share your screen. Dan, can you unmute both devices of Dineo?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, SG, and good afternoon to everybody, and good morning to others, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Dineo, as they've already introduced me. I'm an economic researcher based in South Africa, working for the South African Bureau of Standards.
Can you put on full screen, please? Full screen.
Okay.
You can do below in the corner. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So my presentation is mainly going to focus on introducing you to the ARSO DISNet portal. From then onwards, I'll explain the South African National Inquiry Point. And given that, I'll make a case for why it is important for us to have the ARSO DISNet program for member states. So firstly, when we look at the ARSO DISNet, it is actually a documentation and information system program, and it provides information on standards, conformity assessments, technical regulations, and all other activities that would affect trade, specifically within the African region. And with that, its mission is to make available the standards and trade-related information. And basically, this is to ensure smooth trading. The vision is to ensure interconnectiveness of all African information system. And this is to ensure that once we have a fully functioning one information system, it makes it extremely easy to disseminate information on a national and a regional level. And this information that we are particularly concerned with here is information of technical regulations and any other measures related to products and services within the African arena. And in addition to that, the ARSO DISNet aims to ensure, or rather promote networking within its members, cooperation and partnership, and this is in support of the ARSO principal mandate. Just to explain a bit more in terms of how DISNet operates, currently at ARSO level, there are 29 member states, and these member states are the ones that are participating at ARSO DISNet. ARSO DISNet also functions under 3 subcommittees, and these committees include the ARSO networks, the ARSO TVT National Inquiry Point, which is the notification coordination unit operated under the WTO TVT and the AFC FTA transparency principle to ensure disclosure of cooperation of members. Lastly, it's the African Trade Web Portal. Members' collaboration to facilitate online access to product, trade, and market requirements information. Given that we have an idea of what this ARSO DISNet portal is, the reason why we saw it fit to develop such a portal was due to the fact that we've seen an increase in what we call TBT measures, and these are technical barriers to trade. And this was due to the deepening of globalization that we witnessed since the signing of agreements such as GATT, which is now referred to as the WTO. This then enforced the need for us to have platforms where we could share information, and information that is market requirements to facilitate trade amongst nations. Furthermore, the systematic reduction in trade tariffs has also led to an increased influence in non-tariff barriers. Africa has also seen the development of different regulatory policies within the African region, such as COMESA, SADC, and all these African policies, they basically have a different variety of certification, testing, and inspection requirements when it comes to products or services that are rendered within their borders. Lastly, the need for this portal was also seen as we witnessed the development of the FTA, which states that it has the potential to increase intra-African trade by 52% by eliminating import duties, and to double this trade if non-tariff barriers, especially TBTs, are reduced. So given this, we saw it fit that we actually need to improve the manner in which information reaches stakeholders that require this information. Lastly, we wanted to achieve the increase in trade. To achieve the increase in trade, it is very important that we have effective information trade channels or communication systems within Africa. Given that background, I will now go into a case study of South Africa in terms of how we manage our information and the distribution thereof. Firstly, at the SABS, we have our information center. Basically, the information center functions more of a library. It will provide any information that is standards related. This includes the purchasing of standards or inquiries about certain standards, product standards that are available within our borders. In addition, you will also get information on any revisions that are taking place, any withdrawn standards, or any standards that are due to be amended. With that, you would also receive information about our different committees that you may, as a stakeholder, choose to participate in order to be involved in the process of standards development. Lastly, what the information does is also publish in standards related information. And this would be in either hard copy or soft copy that is available on the SABS website. Another function that we have that's separate from the information center, we've got our customer service center. And it basically provides supplementary information to standards, which would include certification and auditing, testing and accreditation, training, and local contact verification. Supplementary to that, we also have the WTO inquiry point. This is one which I manage. And in most cases, this one deals mainly with international stakeholders and anything that has to do with borders. And basically, the responsibility of the inquiry point is to ensure the notification of technical regulations, standards, and conformity assessment procedures relevant to the relevant international bodies and local industry. So just to give a bit of background, in South Africa, we have a difference between a standard and a regulation. A standard that is developed is not automatically mandatory. It only becomes mandatory if it's referenced in a regulation. Whereas in other countries, for example, once a standard is developed, it becomes mandatory. With us, it's a bit different. Furthermore, the inquiry point maintains information, basically a database regarding technical barriers from other countries. So a local stakeholder seeking information about product requirements, for example, from Kenya, can access that information through the inquiry point, through the local inquiry point. Furthermore, we notify the relevant international bodies of any South African changes relating to technical regulations, standards, and conformity assessment procedures. As a supplementary function, we also provide research on international technical regulations, standards, and conformity assessment for the benefit of local industry. In addition, we also do training. We train local stakeholders on how to use all available e-tools to access information. This would be WTO portals, Disnet portals as well, where they themselves can have access to information should they not require the services of the W inquiry point. This also just makes it easier for them to access information timelessly. Given what we do, we also experience a couple of challenges, given that it's not only information that is the custodian of the SABS that our own industry will need when they trade with other countries. Basically, on a national level, the challenges that we are facing are lack of awareness of the full offering of the inquiry point by industry. There are instances where industries don't know that this information in terms of product requirements when crossing borders, they can actually receive it for free instead of hiring a consultant. And sometimes because they are not aware of where to actually go to find this information, it causes delays and it also has other financial implications for them. We also have challenges in sourcing information from other countries due to poor infrastructure in terms of information tools. It's not every country that has an organized web portal where other countries can access and actually buy standards or find regulation information. So you'll find that we are sending back and forth emails, and because it's not always centered in one place, when you send an email to this department, they have to refer you to another one, which also takes time to source information for our local stakeholders. There are also implications when stakeholders don't make use of the national inquiry point. We are basically here to support them in terms of their information, or rather regulation and standards needs to ensure smooth trading. And when we are in cases where we find producers producing and actually trying to export their products, and they get to different borders and their products are turned back either because they don't have the right conformity assessment certificate or they did not follow a certain standard. And this has huge financial implications because now they are stuck with products that do not have a market. Lastly, we as the inquiry point, we would like our stakeholders to actually participate in the development process of standards and regulations. Basically, when regulations are being developed, all countries are required by the different agreements to notify the intent to change, develop, or amend a regulation. And different countries have an opportunity to participate by submitting comments on presented regulations or standards. And this allows for the country that's actually developing the standards to take into consideration on how these new changes or how this new standard is going to affect trade across the different borders. So when we find situations where our local stakeholders are not participating, they actually realize when it's actually too late, when the regulation itself has already been promulgated and it's enforced, and they have a situation where products are at the border but they cannot enter markets because they do not comply to the changed regulation. And this often causes problems for us. Now, we have a case for why we require a robust ARSO business program for members, and why we would encourage members to actually participate in ensuring that they provide information timelessly, and we also encouraging transparency. What would we actually benefit from this type of information system? Basically, it provides increased opportunities for capacity building and technical cooperation on notifications. The ARSO.net has already been developed. So by participating and having different members exchanging information within this platform, it capacitates other members who may have not yet fully developed in terms of the methods in which they share information, especially ensuring that it reaches the relevant parties. Two, it also provides an opportunity for increased opportunity for collaborations among information centers and NSPs and joint notification under the TBT subcommittee. So basically, by bringing all these member states into one system, we wanted to ensure that no national inquiry point is left behind. We are all on par in terms of the information that we are putting out there to ensure that it is accessed by the relevant parties timeously. Also, it will provide a deeper understanding of the different agreements that we have an obligation to, especially the transparency clauses. Under the AFCFTA and the WTO TBT agreement, we are obligated to ensure transparency. This is transparency of our standards, regulation, or any standards related information that will affect trade. And basically, we want to try and ensure that it reaches all our traders timeously to ensure that they have an ample opportunity should they need to change their production methods in order to meet the new requirements when they are crossing borders. Furthermore, an increased coordination and awareness of unintended consequences of regulation possible for defense concerns. This also allows us to cooperate as national inquiry points in terms of the manner in which we produce our regulations to ensure that trade is continuously uninterrupted. Furthermore, DISNET provides a platform for African member states to enhance collaboration on matters that affect trade and enhance greater availability to trade information and market requirements information. It also connects trade organizations to trade and trade information. Lastly, this portal offers an opportunity for us to maintain reciprocity of information amongst member states. It will serve us of no use if only a few members within the continent have fully functioning national inquiry points and they are unable to receive information from countries which have not yet fully developed. So as we develop, we would like others to also develop at the same pace so that we are able to exchange information smoothly. With that being said, I conclude my presentation and I will take it back to you, SG.
Thank you, Dineo. One key issues you put on is the challenge actually to utilize, even if all the countries probably do not have the national inquiry points, is also the issue of not utilizing the national inquiry point you brought in. That might have actually resolved the issue that Laura was presenting, the example on Zambia and Botswana, and the example on Uganda and Kenya. And there is a key point under the AFCFTA you mentioned, joint notification. ARSO is harmonizing standards, yeah, and those standards should be utilized by the member state on the African continent. What do you think? How can we go about the joint notification as the countries start implementing those harmonized standards?
Firstly, I think we need to have a wider program where we are creating awareness. And if we are all joined together as ARSO business members, it provides an opportunity for us to have one strategy, one mandate, and it's not just going to be one country which is struggling to basically come up with a strategy and also implement it. I mean, with the ARSO DISNET platform, it already provides a platform for us to publish information. This is already a platform that is there. So even countries that do not have the capacity, they already are at an advantage because there's a platform that's already there and it's available for them. So using a centralized platform ensures that everybody received the same information at the same time and at the right time. The previous speaker spoke about how information is actually crucial, but it's not just information. The relevant information is crucial. You may be aware that to trade, you need to comply to regulation, but do you actually know which regulation this is and actually how to go about interpreting this particular regulation that is being presented to you? So information is crucial, but having the right relevant information at the right time is even more important. And with organizations like ARSO, where they actually bringing the continent under one roof, it also gives us a platform to ensure that we are not having regulations that are imposed on our traders. We actually provide them with an opportunity to have a say in the development process, to actually give technical input. I mean, we may sit here as politicians and we want to bring everybody in one room, but in terms of the technical requirements, it sits with the traders. And that's why we feel it is very important that we get the relevant people. Yes, we may have a platform, but a question also arises: do we have the relevant people with a relevant technical expertise to actually make the right decisions when it comes to these regulations that actually affect our trade?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Relevant information. Relevant information. This net is giving the information on standards, related issues, on conformity assessment related issues. But now that's relevant information. It's not just information as what you are saying. The relevant information, probably we need the information or for what are we trading on. That's our next speaker probably will respond to this because we need those standards, but with priority sectors of what we have under the continent. And thank you, Philip, also for sharing the 29 members that are members of this net, while we are looking for the 55 members of the African Union. Our next speaker will be discussing the African Union Trade Observatory, availing the African trade information and the market requirements in the operations of the African single market and implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Our speaker is Brian Mreveru. Is the trade advisor for the Commission of Economic Development, Trade, Tourism, Industry and Minerals of the African Union Commission. Brian, yeah, maybe you will tell us on the relevant information that we have under the African Trade Observatory. The floor is yours.
Thank you, SG, and good afternoon, colleagues. And I really appreciate inviting us to present on this important aspect regarding the integration of our continent towards the implementation of the AFCFTA. Let me say from the onset that the AFCFTA is quite an ambitious project, which falls under the program we refer to as the BIAT, Boosting Intra-Africa Trade. So one of the key aspects that was realized within the BIAT framework was that there's a big dent in terms of trade information. Traders do not know where to access information. And where those that can afford, it usually comes at a very high price. So this is where the African Trade Observatory stepped in to say, let's now supply trade market information, trade intelligence, the requirements in particular markets, the product specification, the standards and all that within one umbrella body under the African Trade Observatory. So this African Trade Observatory is a joint program that the Commission is implementing with technical support from ITC and financial support from the EU. But just to indicate that the AFCFTA is one of the most ambitious agreements that have been entered to since the AU was established. Upon its signature, I think we realized 44 signatures, and now we are sitting at 54 with the exception of Eritrea. There's a strong political commitment with the 44 instruments of ratification have been deposited with the office of the chair. And quite clearly, communication from colleagues in Accra indicating that the schedules of commitments that now in excess of 40 member states have submitted, indicating the readiness to trade. But just as an indication on that slide, if you click again, Philip, you will notice that, go forward. You again, click again. Yes. You will notice that if you just indicate that people do not have access to information, there's a survey done by ITC regarding non-tariff measures in Africa. And then the question was, do you know anything about the AFCFTA? Less than half said yes, and more than half said no. And now, if you click again, Philip, you notice that there's an additional question. Do you expect any benefits that might arise from the AFCFTA? Yes, there is a huge optimism, 63%, 24 unsure, and 13 sort of, no, I doubt very much, partly because of historical issues regarding the implementation of trade agreements in Africa. So the Trade Observatory, if you move forward, basically steps in to clear that pessimism and probably gather more political momentum as well as technical support towards the implementation of the agreement. So where are we coming from? The B at which I made reference to, which is in 394 of 2012, in terms of the establishment of the AFCFTA, it provides for the African Trade Observatory, the African Business Council, and the Africa Trade Forum as one of the key instruments that should support the implementation of the AFCFTA. So how does this, where does it come in? What is the ATO all about? It's basically a repository to collect trade and trade-related information from member states and other sources. And then we'll move a step further to say, let's analyze that information in terms of the value it generates to the business community, because from government perspective, government does not trade. It is the business that does business across the borders. And then, of course, as policymakers, we then have to monitor and evaluate the impact of the AFCFTA and boosting inter-Africa trade. This also provides a free of charge portal in terms of business opportunities that exist in any part of Africa and the rest of the world. And of course, at the background of that too, we have the database where we sit, which will certainly reside with the African Union Commission for sensitivities arising from data collection and dissemination. So it's a project that is being coordinated at the level of the steering committee, which is chaired by the Commission and the chief executive officers of regional economic communities, the AFCF Secretariat, and private sector organizations in Africa. The composition initially was restrictive, but it keeps expanding as more and more countries come in. Next slide, please. So far, we have over 32 countries that have registered to be on the portal, and the numbers are growing. 3 months ago, we did send out an official communication requesting collaboration. Here's the number. Initially, we had pegged at 12, but we had a sudden jump because of the growing momentum towards the implementation of the AFCFTA. So, and also we are doing this with a pilot track, which is the East Africa Economic Community, where we are trying to see how we can design the AFCFTA within the ATO within a REC and how to operationalize with the existing instruments. Let's move on. So what are the main activities of the ATO? It to improve data availability and quality. Because data is the new crude oil, like I always indicate in various forums, it is important that we provide the business community and policymakers with quality data. We also intend to expand the data coverage, because as we implement the agreement, we need to ensure that all the 55 member states of the Union are on board. And whether you are residing in Comoros or you are in Nigeria, you should be able to access market and trade intelligence in South Africa or Egypt at the comfort of your smartphone. And then, of course, we will try to improve information that is provided on the ATO dashboard in terms of the data itself and how the policymakers can make informed decisions. I'm sure you can see of late, there is a lot of the gender dimension coming in whenever there is a discussion on trade and trade-related matters. So that in itself has to be incorporated. And of course, in order to ensure sustainability, ownership, and strategic guidance, we are in the process of establishing the ATO unit at the African Union Commission. We work with regional economic communities and focal persons in the member states. We have a long list of people that will supply this information, be it customs information, be it finance, be it tax issues. So that ecosystem is designed to ensure that all aspects of trade and trade-related data are captured, and the business people will make informed decisions when they are looking for market opportunities when implementing the AFCFTA. Let's move to the next one. Now, what makes Business Intelligence Dashboard unique? Because it is solely and customized to the African Union, particularly with reference to the AFCFTA, because this was the initial conceptualization. Of course, the dashboard will expand to include the rest of the world, but in the meantime, let's focus on issues that affect our home, which is the AFCFTA. And of course, it is freely available in digital format, and you can access it through various modules, which is the compare, the explore, and the monitor module of the dashboard. If you click on the website right now, ato.africa, you are able to see this dashboard. And right now it's residing on ICTC platform, but over time it's going to be migrated to the African Union headquarters. And then, of course, it ensures that the benefits are known, because when head of state and government conceived the idea of the AFCFTA, they wanted to make sure that it benefits Africans. And of course, it also benefits SMEs. So that assessment needs to be done through the monitor module, which will be available to policymakers. Next slide. Now, this is how the dashboard looks like. So the compare module will basically give you the trade and market access information across countries, products, and markets. That is the compare. The explore module, you will find detailed trade market access related information for country, product, market combination. This has to do with taxes, regulations, and TMs. And then, of course, we have the monitor module there, which is specifically designed for policymakers, the ATO focal points, and the regional economic communities to monitor the implementation of the AFCFTA in those particular constituencies. At this moment, Chair, let me hand over the mic to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brian. Yeah, I like that there will be that comparison on the products and the market on the continent, and it's really linking to the AFCFTA. And you have 32 countries now under the Trade Web Portal. We saw also from the previous presentation, Dineo showing 29 members of the ARSO DISNET, giving information on standards. What is the strategy you have to connect this Africa Trade Observatory to other portal like the ARSO DISNET that was presented by Dineo?
Thank you, Chair. I think right now, I must confess that there's a proliferation of portals across countries and regions. So one of the initiatives which have been done by our colleagues last week during the Africa Integration Day at the Boma event was to bring all these trade information portals under one. I'll put the name in the chat forum where you can access these trade portals. That's point number one. But point number two, it is imperative that we at some point do a mapping exercise of trade information portals. When we did the ATO, we did those that basically supply information in terms of domestic regulations. There was no initiative to supply information. Let's say you are seated in Kenya right now. It's difficult to access information about the Congo, DRC Congo. So that kind of, that mapping exercise was done, but then it seems to me that we need to expand the scope. And the only way to expand the scope is to do the national, regional consultations of trade information portals, and then house them under one umbrella, be it at REC level or be it at continental level, such that users of those various platforms can choose where to access information. What matters at this moment is convenience, reliability, and information quality. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. Maybe I will come back to you. And you can have the link to access the Africa Trade Observatory shared on the chat by Jacqueline. Sorry. I would like now to see, you have presented the Africa Trade Observatory, and we have also our partner, the European Union, that has actually another tool, which is access to markets. Our next speaker will be presenting the European Union Trade Portal, access to markets, its role as key component of European single market and the lessons for the AFCFTA. Is Saul Goulding, who is the trade policy assistant under the European Union Commission. He works in the DG Trade Unit F1, which is responsible for the access to market tool. Saul, you have the floor.
Many thanks. Please just allow me 1 second so I can share my presentation.
Yes, you can share now.
Oh, thank you. I will just allow it for it to be big screen. Are you able to see everything correctly?
Yes, indeed.
Sure. Okay, well, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you're connecting. Dear colleagues, I wish to thank you for joining me today whilst I give you a presentation, and I wish to thank the organizers as well for the kind invite. As our host has graciously explained, my name is Saul Goulding and I work in the European Commission. I'm one of the responsible officers of the Access to Markets portal, and I'd like to just give you a very short overview of our tool today, and I hope you find this very useful. I'm just going to the next slide. Now, if you have your portable device at the ready, I would ask you, if you would like, to scan the QR code. Like that, you will be able to visit the website in parallel to my explanation. So this could be a bit more useful and entertaining. I let that for a second be, so you may want to scan it. In that meantime, I'll give you an overview of the actual website itself. So Access to Markets was launched in 2020. We're coming up on nearly 2 years of the website's establishment, and we have had over 3 million individual users and visits to the site. So it is an extremely well-used portal. This product and portal was launched with the aim of giving the users every information they need on exporting and importing. I'll further expand on that throughout the presentation, but just so that you have an idea that this has been designed with a few different points in mind for the users. I'll just go to the objectives now. So as you can see in their slides, we have objectives, why the Access to Markets portal was indeed established. As I said, this is a tool which supports companies, SMEs, business groups in their efforts to internationalize their business, be it from exporting from the EU or importing into the EU. It allows for easier access to assess all export opportunities for which you may be eligible or for which you may have not had the opportunity to see. It also informs on the various trade agreements, partnership agreements of which the European Union has with various third countries, and it supports the implementation of these. Fourthly, it provides information on all products for each agreement in over 135 export markets. All these objectives are met in a very easy to understand way. The website breaks down legal language into very practical information, and it is available in all EU languages. It is easy to access. As I've demonstrated, you may just scan a QR code. It is multilingual, it is on the go, and it's free. You do not need to register and you do not need to pay. It is a repository of information available and updated very, very frequently for your benefit. To give you a bit the understanding of the targeted user groups for access to markets, the website itself is, as I mentioned before, designed for companies, in particular our SMEs, both within the EU and around the world, for which access to information sometimes was not so easy and not so easily found. This is allowing all companies and all the parties that are interested in expansion an ability to search that information very freely and accessibly through our portal. Also, we cater to business organizations and associations which are having a stakeholder or are an interested party within the business world. This allows for many business organizations to gain information that they can easily then transfer to the SMEs of which they might need this help. Additionally, as it's stated, business advisory services such as European Enterprise Network, other trade promotion organizations, or any other, again, interested stakeholder or party, the information is available there for them to use. As mentioned, the EU, or the access to markets, informs on all trade agreements for which we have quite a lot. We see here on our map, which will need to be updated soon, with the ratification of the EU-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement, but you see a bit the overview of what information you're able to achieve successfully from using the website. Also, we're having the information on the sorry, guys. We have the information as well on all the export markets. Now, there is one slight caveat I would like to highlight, and this is just based on some copyright information for which we have. Parts of the website are 99% of the website is completely free and available to use, but there is a small part of the website that if you are not sitting in a member state or a candidate country, you will not be able to see. This, for example, would be if you're looking for information from an EU member state to a third country, you will not be able to see that. That is the same rule for everybody outside of the designated states of the EU and the candidate countries. That's just something to highlight. There are some ways to get the access if you are working in a member state organization or in the official embassy of a third country. You may contact us for access to that. Now, we also inform on the EU market of the different states, and this is very, very easily accessible information for which you can find in the EU market section. All information we cover there will be displayed freely and availably. You will be able to notice all information that you need on that page. Or if you would like to export from one country to the EU, you'll be able to see that there. The results you can expect are listed here. You'll see all about tariffs, internal taxes, rules of origin, if this applies to you, if you're sitting in a country with an FTA or a European Partnership Agreement, customs procedures, product requirements, trade barriers, statistics are available on the site. And as I say, you may contact us through the contact form and access to markets for any further questions. You may follow us on our Twitter page, which is the Trade Twitter, and other leaflets and information are available. And I do believe our gracious host will be sending all this to the participants. So I'll stop there as I want to keep on time. But thank you very much for your attention. I'm looking forward to the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Saul. It's very interesting, and it's a robust tool where you have all product for each agreement. Yeah, for 135 export markets. It's a huge one. And
Yes.
you also mentioned that was so far visited by more than 3 million people. I think it's very interesting. I would like to ask you one question. When you look at all the discussion you had previously from our speakers, the issue of non-tariff barrier has been there. How this access to market portal had helped to eliminate trade barriers in the EU single market?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I would like to just refer that within access to markets, which is something that you will see if you visit the link, for which I'll just post in the chat directly, we have a other tool called the single entry point. Now, this is part of the enforcement agenda of the EU. This is an area for which a EU company in a third country may launch a complaint for where they're finding market access barriers, and we will investigate it within our unit alongside the relevant sectorial geographical colleagues in the House here, maybe with other services involved in the Commission, and also with our delegation in the local country. Access to markets facilitates the ability for those who are facing potential barriers, either in a market access aspect, a trade and sustainable development aspect, or a generalized scheme preference aspect, to actually lodge their complaints, and for it to be really looked into, and that can help facilitate better handling and more investigation into proposed trade barriers. I would implore you to have a look through all those, and if you are interested, there's a lot of information on our single entry point as well, on the role of our Chief Trade Enforcement Officer, Denira Donet, on our various websites. And as I said as well, I mean, we have a lot of information on the single market, on the EU market, and within the EU market section of the Access to Market site, and I would very much propose for everyone to have a look. You are able to see all information about the different member states and how you are sort of able to facilitate your own exports to those. You have all the information, and also you can play around with our website and actually input a HS code or input a product name, and you'll be able to see how you can get your product from the country you sit in to the country of your desire in the EU. So I hope that is enough. I hope, but if there's anything else, please let me know.
Very, very interesting that you can also launch complaint and you can treat those complaints. I think you have a lot of data on that, and as some access are limited to only members, yeah, that we shall discuss further if we need some more details on some statistics. Thank you very much, Saul.
No problem. Thank you very much for the invite, and I've been very happy to be here. I'll have to disconnect now, but if there are any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you a lot. Thank you very much. Maybe before you go, Saul, what is your one recommendation for this discussion that we can capture?
I would recommend, I suppose, just you could capture the fact that there is a lot of information available on the various portals, and to not stay in a situation where you feel blocked, you are able to reach out, you are able to discuss further. There are people that are willing to help and willing to show you how to find the information that you want. I feel like that is probably the most that we can do with the tools that are there. We display all the information. If something isn't clear, you are free to contact, and we'll be able to try and see what we can do to help on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. I would like, I saw Jacqueline from ITC posting actually a video. Yeah, I would like, Dan, if you can give access to share the screen, give access to Jacqueline, yeah, to share the screen and present to us the Africa Trade Observatory video. Thank you. Jacqueline?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me. So I will do
Yes, we
a
can hear
short,
you. Yeah.
great. Thank you very much for these 5 minutes. So I will do a short live demo of the African Tree Observatory today. So let me start by sharing my screen. So as Brian mentioned, this website is available in multiple languages from the African Union: English, French, Arabic, and Portuguese. And as explained by Brian, there are 3 modules: Compare, Explore, and Monitor. And today I will focus my short live demo on the first 2, Compare and Explore, which targets the business sector and are publicly available. So the Compare module allows us to compare opportunities in 3 different ways, using the markets view, the products view, and the exporters view. But today, due to limited time, we will be focusing on the market view. So let's start. To do so, we will need to select an exporter, and today we will take the perspective of or as a business case, a perspective of a Mauritian producer of cane or beet sugar, looking for opportunities in the African market. So we will type as an exporter Mauritius, and we will try the HS code at the 6-digit level for cane or beet sugar, which is 170,199. If you don't know the code for your product, you simply need to click on the HS Finder, and that will guide you and allow you to select the appropriate code. We'll click on Start. Okay, so now we are in the compare module, and as you can see here, markets. Here we see 5 markets, and those markets are ranked according to the untapped export potential or the estimated room for export growth in the next 4 years, which bears into mind. So this is a computation and methodology done by the International Trade Center, which bears in mind global supply, the strength of trading relationships, projected demand, as well as relative market access conditions. So in this example, we can see that the markets with the greatest potential in the next 4 years are South Africa, Madagascar, Kenya, Mozambique, and Uganda, which are also listed here. So we can see the results by untapped potential, but also we can filter the results by actual trade. So if we filter the results by actual trade, we will see that, for example, instead of being South Africa at the top, now Kenya's at the top. So these 2 views allow us simply to see the markets where, in this case, our Mauritian cane or beet sugar is present. So for in the case, these producers who is looking for new opportunities, versus markets where we actually observe room for additional export growth in the next 4 years. So if we go back to the untapped potential, we will also notice that there are some values that there are some countries where there is no trade. And why is it important to look into attractiveness of markets? Because this doesn't mean that there are no opportunities. It just means that these are unexplored markets at this moment. So moving on to the display table below, so on the left side of the table, we will see trade indicators, which provide us information about latest import values and market size. So we observe here, for example, the Kenya is a larger importer from these top 5 markets, and it's also a big market because they imported in total from all countries in the world 195 million. The East Australia indicator, which is displayed here, measures the relative strength of a trade relationship with a given market, and in this case, we can see that the closest traded partner for Mauritius will be Madagascar. On the right side of the table, we have the information about about tariffs and MFN tariffs. So we observe that these 5 attractive markets provide a preferential tariff of 0, except for South Africa, which does not have any agreement in place and indeed doesn't provide any preferential tariffs. So the compare module allows for an agile analysis, so we can customize and we have control of what we want to see and we don't want to see. So we can remove some indicators. So for example, and we can add also some indicators. So for example, we know that regulatory requirements or MFN or NTM, sorry, are important, so we can add those as well by just switching on. And also we can change the scale from millions to thousands, as simple as that. We can also increase the number of countries. So here you're seeing only top 5 countries and attractive markets, but we can increase to 10, 12, and so on. We can also increase countries. So let's say you're interested in a specific country and compare this country with other countries that seem to be attractive. You can also do so by clicking on the plus icon. And then also you have an eye icon that provides you additional details about the information that you can see here. The arrows here that you can see in the first column provide you information about the trend. So here is telling that in the last 5 years, the imports from South Africa for this particular product from Mauritius, and it is increasing. Okay, so now now that we have let's say compare in a strategic from a strategic point of view by looking at trade indicators and market access conditions, now we would like to focus on a specific market and explore more that in detail, because we know that knowing that we have a zero preferential tariff is not enough. We need to have more information. So let's say we will consider, as I said, there is no wrong answer here, but let's say we would like to look into details into Madagascar. So to be able to access the Explore module, which provides us additional details about this particular market, we just need to click this to simply click on more details, and we will be redirected to the Explore module. So the Explore module has 3 tabs: market opportunities, market conditions, and business contact. So in terms of market conditions, we can see the market share first of Mauritian cane or beet sugar from Mauritius in Madagascar, in Africa, and in the world. Next to that, we can see the untapped potential and the import growth in the next 5 years. And below that, we can see a table that shows you the growth or the evolution of imports over time. So we observe that since 2020, Malagasy imports have been rapidly expanding. So moving on, as we have just a few minutes left. So if we go to market conditions, we will see a little bit more details about tariffs. So in the case of the MFN tariff, it's 20% for all countries. But in the case of the preferential tariff, we see that there are 2 preferential tariffs that apply, because there are 2 agreements between these 2 countries. So we have the Indian Ocean Commission agreement between these 2 countries, and we also have the Commerce agreement. So here we can see details about this agreement, information about the rules of origin, and the documents that are needed to be able to fulfill with these rules of origin. So for example, the certificate of origin. We can see, but also compare the information. So for example, in terms of the rules of origin, we can see that the criteria that apply is the regional value content of 40-35%. And if we go to the Commerce agreement, we can see that it's also very similar. If we want to have more details, let's say now we see that these 2 agreements provide the same or similar regional criteria. If we want to see more details about how this is calculated, for example, we can click on find more details on rules of origin facilitator, and it will take us to a different market analysis tool that have been also designed by the International Trade Center. We will have additional more information about the rules of origin and the certificate of origin. For example, whether indirect materials are included or not in the calculation, whether packaging is included, whether sets are included, fungible materials are included or not. And since there are 2 agreements, we can compare between these 2 agreements, for example, what is included and what is not. So for example, this is the case of Comesa. We see that indirect materials are included, but we see that in case of fungible materials, only materials are included. Further on, we can see information about taxes and other fees. So while we have a 0% preferential tariff, we can see that there is a domestic tax of 20%, which is the value added.
Jacqueline, I guess time is up, and as we shared the link, the participant can continue exploring the website. Yeah.
Okay, you just give me 10 seconds just to finalize. That would be great.
Yes, you can finalize it now.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. So basically, just to show you that I was about to finish, but it's taxes. This is information about NTMs, where you can find more details, and voluntary standards for those that are interested in niche markets. And finally, the business contact tabs that provides information about trade finance providers and trade promotion organizations. So thanks a lot. That's all from my side. And I invite you to watch the video to get more details.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very, very interesting. Actually, it's good to show that it's working. It's working, and we have information on the Africa Trade Observatory. Thank you very much. And I think it's very important, as mentioned, probably to link to the other portals yeah, or what Brian recommended to take stock of what is existing currently, then to see how we can utilize such other information on those portals. Thank you a lot, Jacqueline. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I would like, while we move for in concluding our webinar, I would like to ask Laura, what is your take-away message for this discussion?
It's been a really interesting session. I've learned quite a lot from the various presenters. And my key takeaways will be two. First of all, we need to appreciate that we are really making strides in the right direction when it comes to trade information. We have already various digital platforms on trade information by various institutions. But going forward, we need to have increased coordination by the players who are involved in this space. And secondly, information is king, but the information needs to be relevant and accessible to the targeted audience. So this is it from my end, and thank you.
Thank you. Brian, what would be your takeaway message? Brian, are you still there? Maybe while Brian is connecting, yeah, I want Dineo. What is your takeaway message?
Thank you, SG. Basically, my takeaway point is that we already have platforms that we can use to our advantage to ensure that information and the relevant information reaches the people that require the information to ensure smooth trade. So we need to enhance our methods in terms of ensuring that they actually have access to these platforms. And furthermore, we actually need to encourage more participation at member state level so that we can have a coordinated strategy in terms of how we get participation, especially from our trading stakeholders, to ensure that information is reached timeously to them so that it does not hamper or cause any delays in terms of trade. Also, we are trying to increase trade. So we want to empower even those that have plans to access international markets in the future, to ensure that they have information that prepares them for when they have fully equipped themselves to do so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Brian, are you there? Brian probably has some difficulties. Yeah, as I have a few minutes, for the audience, we have a collaboration with WTO on the discussions we had today, especially on transparency. I would like to give Angelica just 2 minutes to give the audience that information. Can you unmute Angelica, please? Dan, please, yes. Angelica, you have now the floor.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, Chair. So yes, very much in line with the discussions, especially on transparency. Today, my name is Angelica Grzuk. I work at the WTO with the Technical Barriers to Trade team. And I wanted to inform you that the WTO Secretariat is launching a pilot. It's called the TBT Transparency Champions Program. which aims to scale up the implementation and benefits of the TBT transparency framework and foster champions for transparency. So it is targeted at government officials with responsibilities for TBT transparency procedures, mainly the inquiry points and national notification authorities. And this first pilot will be conducted in English for African countries, also supporting integrations under the AFCFTA. So it will start with a kickoff workshop in Geneva in October 2022, this year, and the participants will receive training on the TBT transparency provisions, how to submit notifications, comments, domestic and international coordination, and also how to use digital tools such as the new EPIN, SPS, TBT integrated platform. So then there will be a follow-up during 6 months to help the participants to implement action plans that they will develop. And we'll have a regional workshop after these 6 months in the region. We didn't decide where yet to discuss what were the results and the next steps. So I just wanted to let you know about that, and that the deadline for this program is for applications is 27 July. So it's close to the end. So I would like to encourage the inquiry points and notification authorities that would like to submit their applications. I would just put in the chat a link to the program and also my email if you have any doubts or you need more information on the application process. So thank you very much, and I hope to be on time. And thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, you did well in 2 minutes. Thank you very much. We will also communicate as we discussed, to our members. Thank you, Angelica. 3 key recommendations I got on this webinar. The first one is increased coordination. We have so many platforms, so many portals. We need to increase coordination to avoid the proliferation of the trade portals. That's one. The second recommendation, assuring access to information, meaning looking at the tools we are using. Do we have different languages? Do we have targeted audience on such information? That's 2. The number 3 is creating awareness on existing tools, on existing platform, either the African Trade Observatory or the ARSO DISNET and other platforms. I once again would like to thank our panelists. Laura, thank you very much. Dineo, thank you very much. Brian, thank you. And Saul, thank you for accepting our invitation to participate in today's webinar. It's a very good platform to share such information. Actually, I call it training to our different members. Thank you for availing yourselves and giving your knowledge for free. I would like once again to thank our participant that every month we have these ARSO webinars, and you have always been there. And I am assuring you that we're gonna share these presentations. And if you need to follow up with other questions, do not hesitate to contact us. And save the date. Next month, we will be discussing on pharmaceutical industry, the productivity and trade, the role of standardization in facilitating the growth of the pharmaceutical industry and trade in Africa. I look forward to seeing you once again on 24th August this year. Thank you, and keep well. Bye. If you can put on the video, we can have some screenshots. Yeah, Brian is still there. Put on the video and a good smile. Angelica, you can still smile. Yeah. Thank you very much, and take care. Bye.
Bye.